Hello and welcome to another episode of The Framework of Tomorrow. I am your host, Keegan Goldfarb, and today, this is episode 15. I cannot believe we are already at episode 15. It's been so amazing. I've learned so much over just these 15 episodes, and also being in a podcasting network, rallynetwork.net. Speaking of which, I'm going to talk about our sponsor here on the network and on my show, Ashley Luann Kay, the Minnesota nurse. Have you heard of her? I'm sure you have if you've listened to any of my episodes. So if you're pursuing a higher education or want insight as life as a nurse, go check out Ashley Luann Kay at the Minnesota Nurse. The Minnesota Nurse, if I can say that correctly. I have a problem pronouncing things most of the time, but make sure to check her out at the Minnesota Nurse on Instagram. Not only does that help us out, that helps her out as well. And if you want some amazing content, go and definitely check her out because she's got the amazing content. Remember, that's at the Minnesota Nurse. So today, like I said, we are going to be talking about the history of renewable energy. Before I get into that, I'm going to read what renewable energy is. So renewable energy is defined as energy that can be renewed, unlike fuels like gas, oil, or coal. Started in Europe over 2,000 years ago, and of course, this was a brute form, but was created for the premise for today's technological feats. What was this brute form that was created over 200 years ago originally? So the first thing that was created that could produce renewable energy was, of course, in 200 BC, the water wheels, or the water wheel. The water wheel is it mimics the workings behind hydropower. So a water wheel converts the energy of moving water into a mechanical or electrical energy. It uses a rotating shaft to convert the kinetic movement of the water into mechanics so that it drives any attached machinery to serve its function. So this was 200 BC, and we used this form of renewable energy all the way until the 1500s. It's crazy. This is going to be a big history time period jump from 200 BC to then the 1590, which was when windmills showed up. So this is the second renewable energy source we created as humans. So water wheel stayed around for what is that? That's a long time. I'm not going to figure that out right now, but it's 1590. So windmills staying in Europe, the Netherlands, to be exact, the Netherlands. We now look to the year 1590 when the popularity of windmills was at its peak. So windmills had come years before in horizontal form and across large parts of the Middle East and Central Asia in around 635 AD. So between 200 BC to the 1590s, there was actually one more that came up, which was windmills, and that was in around 635 AD. Like I said, in the Middle East and Central Asia. But the people who really perfected this was specifically in the Netherlands and with the Dutch as well. So it was perfected in the Netherlands. These were a far cry from the highly specialized wind turbines that we see today. A windmill works through its blades and rotor shafts so that when the wind blows, it pushes the blades into motion, causing them to spin. At this early time, windmills were primarily used to pump water and to mill grain. So I'm sure you've seen in like pictures of like Netherlands and stuff like that, and I know Sweden has a lot of these as well. There's those big wooden windmills, so they're not exactly the thin windmills that we see today, like the big ones, but that was primarily what these were used for. So then going from 1590s to 1860, we go to France, where France had the world's first solar energy system, which was invented by a French investor, Augustin Machat. I think I'm saying that right. Machat. I'm horrible with French. So after his predictions that one day our coal supply would run out, we think he was onto something. I guess that's what this says. Mochet ran trials on his sun meter. So here are a few words from the man himself. So he said, "One must not believe, despite the silence of modern writings, that our idea of using solar heat for mechanical operations is recent. On the contrary, one must recognize that this idea is very ancient, and its slow development across the centuries has given birth to various curious devices." So Mochet, I think I'm saying his name right. I hope I am. Or I'll just call him Augustine because I can actually say that. So Augustine was basically saying that we've had solar energy for a really long time. Like, we've been able to do this, and it's just been given birth to various devices, which could be like the windmill and as well as the water wheel. So this guy's like, we already have it. So indeed the techniques at heart of solar power had been practiced for generations. Augustine was just the first to perfect it. So going from 1860 to 1876, you can now use solar cells to generate energy. So how do you do this? So picture this scene. In London, you're in the streets of London. It's 1876, and you are William Giles Adams, a professor of natural philosophy at King's College. You and your understudy have demonstrated to a board of fellow professors just how you can use selenium cells to harness rays from the sun and generate electricity. Success, recognition, acclaim. Adams' findings would prove instrumental in furthering the field of solar study, and we will toast to that, and amen to that. These William Giles Adams and his understudy figured out how to use selenium cells. I think I'm saying that right. Like I said, I suck at pronouncing. Let's just say that, but I'm pretty sure that's right. They use selenium cells to harness rays from the sun and generate electricity. So 1876. I don't know about you, but picturing that scene and putting myself into those shoes, that would be amazing to go in 1876 and you're like, oh my gosh, guys, we just figured out how to basically harness the sun. So 1876, we find ways to harness the rays and generate electricity. What happens next? Where do we go from here? 1887. So 11 years after that, we see windmills round 2. So it wasn't until the end of the 19th century that wind turbines were built and had started to generate interest in and around Europe. Just a year later, in 1888, Charles F. Brush invented the first windmill used to generate electricity on a farm in Cleveland, Ohio. And by 1908, there were 72 wind turbines generating electricity in Denmark. And by the time 1730s rolled around, they were widespread across the U.S. So very cool U.S. We made windmills the second time better. I guess as Americans, we are very good at doing things. I was going to say doing things second, but that wouldn't make sense. I don't even know where I was going with that. Anyway, the technology accelerated throughout the 19th century alongside the increasing need to generate clean, renewable energy. In 2016, it was found that there are approximately 320 wind turbines in operation around the world. It's reached such a scale that the global wind industry accounted for 1,555,000 jobs, or million. Wait, 1,555,000. Wait, yeah, I'm reading that right. Jobs at the end of 2016. 500,000. Holy cow! 500,000 jobs. That is insane. That's a lot of jobs. That's around the world, though. That's global. All right, so we figure out windmills round 2. America does that. High five, America. Good job. I don't know if you could hear that. That was the saddest high five I've ever given myself. But yes, so America, amazing. Good job, guys. You did it the second time, but it was good. And now we have 500,000 jobs. Cool. So 1905. Albert Einstein and the photoelectric effect. So famed physicist Albert Einstein perfected the photoelectric effect, which examines just how light cells carry potent forms of energy that can be harnessed to power buildings across the civilized world. So Albert Einstein with the photoelectric effect. The photoelectric effect is best described as the emission of electrons when light is shined upon certain materials. Einstein would win a Nobel Prize for Physics in 1921, awarded especially for his work in solar energy. That said, one Edmund Burchell Rorel, I think he's French, it sounds French, actually discovered the effect back in 1839 when experimenting with the effect of light and how it interacts with electrolytic cells. Now you can understand how protective these inventor types can be when it comes to their work. So, I guess Albert Einstein figured it out second, I guess? I don't know. Apparently that guy he claimed to have discovered that before. 1927, wind turbines go commercial. So in 1927, we saw the first scale of commercial wind turbines sold for a considerable sum back then to a group of remote farmers. This is the first instance of renewable energy making a splash on a large commercial sale. People began to take notice. So in 1927, people were like, ooh, hang on a second, renewable energy. This is a good thing. Well, I mean, I guess we've been doing it throughout history, but I guess people with money are kind of like, oh, what's going on here? 1935, Hoover Dam. This Colorado landmark was built to control the water flow along the Colorado River and to provide Southern California and Arizona with a steady water supply. At the time, it was the largest hydroelectric facility in the U.S. What's the largest one now? Over 5,000 workers were employed during the 5 years it took to build, and at full capacity, it can hold enough water to cover the state of Connecticut 10 feet deep. Oh my gosh, that's a lot of water. It's regarded as one of the world's renewable powerhouses and is certainly one of our crowning achievements. It cost $165 million to build, which we reckon is a bargain when you think about its scale and its positive effects around the environment. We'd go as far to say it's an absolute steal. I mean, yeah, that's fair. That's $165 million is nothing when it's in a big achievement like that, I guess. I suppose. So, 1958, solar goes to space. 1958 saw the first U.S. satellite use solar energy as its power source. The Vanguard 1 launched on St. Patrick's Day, and it left behind a legacy that remembered on par with the American moon landing that came 11 years later. So you know how if you see a satellite, you know how they have like the little the wings on the side of them. So that's the solar energy panels that are going onto that. I guess I never thought about that. Did they have satellites before that weren't renewable energy like that? Because I don't think I've ever seen a satellite without those on it. I don't know. 1978, a whole village goes solar. So the Tohono O'odham Reservation in Arizona became the first solar-powered village in the world. There would be many more to come, but this tribal community was the first. 1978. Very, very cool. Then in 1996, the Solar Project. Located in Spain, the Mojave Desert, California, and wider regions of the U.S., the Solar Project consists of 3 solar power plants, all built with the collective aim on furthering the technology and coming up with more efficient ways to harness and ultimately store the energy. In 1996, the work of Solar 2, a plant in Mojave Desert, succeeded in finding this better, more cost-efficient way instead of using oil or water to store energy as Solar 1 did. So Solar 2 is more efficient and doesn't have to use oil or water to store energy. The team at this particular plant used a combination of sodium nitrate and potassium nitrate. The combination allowed the energy to be stored for much longer periods of time, especially when the clouds obscure the light This meant that systems could remain at full operation for up to 3 hours after the sun had set, and this was a massive advancement for its time. I would assume so. 1996. That's 24 years ago. Our technology, I cannot remember what episode it was, but I talked about how I, like kind of a little history on how fast we've progressed with technology and stuff like that. So I guess that would be an example of that as well, because we've gotten pretty far since then. So in 2013, in Ivanpah, the world's largest concentrated solar power plant built in South California, Mojave Desert. So once again, back in the Mojave Desert. I think I'm saying that right. I'm not even going to, if I'm absolutely butchering that name, you can just call me out on it. Please do, actually. Its staggering scale is testament to how far the technology has come, and its construction is a landmark monument, not just for solar fans like us, but also for worldwide renewable community in general. It covers 4,000 acres of land and cost $2.2 billion to make. Again, an absolute bargain in the grand scheme of things. I mean, I guess $2.2 billion is a lot of money, though. But sure, yes, I guess so. As long as I guess it is the world's largest concentrated solar power plant. Very cool. So you might be wondering, you're like, all right, we have all of this new technology. What are we doing with it? What are we doing? So modern solar solutions. So as you can tell, we've come a very long way, and we continue to innovate in every facet of modern life. But without the keen experimentation of years gone by, who knows where we would be? This is very true. That is why my podcast is talking about history and kind of relating it to the future. Because without the history, without the framework, hence my name, we would not have a lot of the things we have today. So history has really built and I guess advanced us in ways that I guess a lot of people don't really, I guess, comprehend, know, or even recognize. There's a lot of things that we see in our day-to-day lives that we, I guess, take for granted, because there was a lot of very important people and very big things in history that led to where we are today, and how, I guess, privileged and blessed, especially in America, on how much, like, we can just go to the store and get food whenever we want. Obviously, not everyone in America can, but the majority of people can. What I mean by that is if, like, you're struggling financially, but I mean, yeah. Anyway, we're definitely blessed, not only as a country in how we get our power now. Our power is just, it's getting so much better. Our technology is going up thanks to Elon Musk with the push of electric vehicles, which is very cool, because if we all get to electric vehicles, it can take emissions down. I mean, it's at a very low rate. There's a lot of that's a whole nother topic to talk about, but electric vehicles are still really cool, and definitely with renewable energy, that makes it way easier to use electric cars and to make that a viable option. So as always, at the end of my episodes, I have a random history fact of the day. So this relates to the topic today. Solar power isn't just a daytime deal. Power from the sun's rays can also be stored in salt and used at night, too. A power plant in Spain soaks up sun by day and pumps out 7 hours of power to the surrounding area by night. I didn't actually know that. I guess I didn't realize that you can store the sun's rays in salt, which is kind of interesting. I didn't know that. And I hope you didn't know that either, because then it's the random history fact, you know? But if you did know that, I guess you're just way cooler than anyone else. I'm just kidding. But thank you so much for listening to this episode of Framework of Tomorrow. This was a super fun episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. And make sure to tune in next Monday at 5 a.m. for episode 16. Not completely sure what I'm going to talk about, but if you want to give me some suggestions, make sure to either DM me on Instagram at the Framework of Tomorrow, or send me some thoughts and questions or ideas for things you want to hear about at theframeworkoftomorrow@gmail.com. So like I said, Framework of Tomorrow at Instagram or at gmail.com. Make sure to rate me 5 stars on iTunes. It really helps out. Actually, if you don't want to rate me 5 stars, rate me anything. You can rate me 1 star. Either way, it helps me out. Helps iTunes be like, hey, this person's getting people on, like, interacting with the podcast, even if it's negative. Please don't make it negative, though. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and have a great rest of your day. And make sure to tune in every Monday and Wednesday at 5 a.m. And have a fantastic week. And tune in next week for another fantastic episode of The Framework of Tomorrow.